Okay, everyone, welcome back to Medicine Buddha. It's good to see you all here. Welcome to those of you who are new to this space. This is a guided practice based upon the Tantra and tradition of Medicine Buddha. Um, and essentially, just starting from there, I just kind of make some shit up. Uh, and then you all feel really good about it, and then we're all the better for it at the end. So I just think it's a lovely deal. um, so of course, you can, introduce yourself in the chat if you're new. I would love to see you as well. And you can always, of course, say hello if you're a returner. Um, just a reminder too that Saturday we do have um, a Medicine Buddha practice, a 1 day practice session online, and Erica is going to post that for you, and it'll be just extended practice. We're going to be working on the mantra a bit. We're going to get deeper into that. Um, and maybe I'll probably pull some excerpts from some texts as well, and we can read those as well. So if you're new to the practice, I think Saturday would be great uh, to come and get like a deeper introduction to the practice. And the recording will be available too as well. And Eric can figure that out.
Anyone who registers via Zoom and donates any amount will receive a downloadable recording of the retreat.
Yeah, which is priceless. What a I'm trying to like pretend like I'm one of those like on one of those like infomercial commercials like when they're like selling some like contraption and it's like so over the top. Oh my God, this toaster can only do coffee, and it's like disgusting, but we're like all into it. It's like why would I buy that? But getting involved with Medicine Buddha, of course, is such a profound blessing as well. So thank you. Let's see who is on the chat. Okay. Yeah, so it's fall. Happy autumn. you know, this supermoon last week was a little intense, I think. Um, so I'm still recovering from that. I was away doing some um, I guess land clearing work um, up in the Northeast. Not like hauling logs off, So I don't do that kind of manual labor, but I was clearing. I don't want to talk much about it, but just to say I was assisting in clearing um, some genocidal trauma from some land, some ancient land. Um, so I'm just coming from that and um, kind of recovering from that. And so, yeah, that's what I'm bringing. But autumn, um, yeah, it's just really, for me, autumn is really such a potent time for me. It's this period of like gathering, right? Gathering the harvest in, like surveying the labor of the summer, right? And beginning to think about the work of the winter months, you know, which it seems like every year for the past several years, winter has gotten a little more intense for us, right? Because it's also the withdrawing of the light as well traditionally. So we're also beginning to bring attention to the importance of the balance between light and dark as well. And darkness asserts itself a little more and asks us to pay attention. Like darkness emerges as a teacher for us, and darkness is always a teacher. Everything is always a teacher for us, right? And this is the tantric view that all phenomena is actually trying to teach us how to get free, including the things that we run away from, the things that scare the shit out of us, right? Everything, and that's Mahamudra, in particular, Mahamudra saying and teaching that because there's phenomena, we also have to understand that all the phenomena arises from emptiness, right? This isn't real, right? This is an expression of an ultimate truth, and we get so distracted by the expression of phenomena that we aren't tuning into the essence, the emptiness from which this phenomenon arises, right? Yeah, and yeah, we can also say, yeah, the world is like a mess, and also the world isn't a mess because it's actually not happening, but it is happening, right? So we talked about this in the Heart Sutra course that some of you took. God, it's like everything is just falling. It's like that. It's like the room is on fire. I don't know why this like incense is so smoky, but anyway, um, yeah, we're already free, right? I think that's the hardest teaching in Buddhism is that we're already free. We just forgot. We got distracted. And then the path of liberation, the dharmic path of liberation, is actually remembering our innate liberation, right? And that's the training that we have to do in every second. No matter what happens, we always have to think, oh, and this is also an expression of emptiness as well, right? It may not do anything, right? But it begins to disrupt deeply unconscious ways that we're solidifying phenomena into something solid and material. Um, like that one phrase, this is a dream, this is an illusion, right? And that particular phrase is also how we practice dream yoga as well. Dream yoga is actually much more about how we bring awareness to our waking life than trying to wake up in a dream. Right? So dream yoga is about bridging the lucidity and the dreamlike quality of dreams with the dreamlike quality of reality, of our waking lives, and bridging those two experiences so that you begin to experience everything, the dream and the waking life, as an illusion, that you can begin to shape right through our practice. And of course, Medicine Buddha is a part of that because Medicine Buddha, again, like all phenomena, it doesn't matter if you're a demon or a Buddha, it doesn't matter. We're all arising from the same experience of emptiness, right? I think there's a lot of suffering when we are when we somehow believe that there is something that isn't arising out of emptiness. That gets real tricky for us, But again, everything, like the trauma, the pain, the apathy, everything arises out of emptiness, right? That emptiness within space, and how that emptiness in space is deeply saturated, imbued with this energy, this luminosity, right? So emptiness, well, empty isn't just empty, right? It's not, emptiness isn't a void, right? Because when we transcend dualities, there's no such thing as voidness, right? Because there's no opposite, right? you transcend dualities in the binary, so there's not one thing to compare to another, right? Emptiness just is. And then we get really anxious and and afraid of that because our only experience of emptiness is suffering. And when we talk about emptiness in this case, we're talking about transcending suffering itself, back to being, back to existing, not just creating a reality as we go along, which is what all of us are doing right now. We're creating this as we're going along, right? But to transcend the labor of creating and to return back to being consciousness, to being awareness, to being energy, right? Then this is what we're trying to do, right? And this is what healing is. Ultimately, this is healing, right? Is to remember where we are and who we are. And the more you do this, the more you take this seriously, the more the edges of the phenomenal world begin to soften. They begin to dull, right? And there's there's a softness that you begin to experience. You know that everything isn't so real, everything isn't so sharp, everything isn't so fatalistic, right? Even with your body, you begin to experience that your body is just an expression, right, of your own awareness, your own mind, right? So you're not so afraid of losing your body, which is another way of saying that you let go of all this fear of death, because even death doesn't exist. You know, like death be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and fearful, and for you are not so. Like Dylan Thomas, it was one of my favorite poems. Actually, that's how I can like recite it. I can't recite it. I can't even recite the Four Noble Truths without forgetting one of them. But I can recite Dylan Thomas. But death be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful. Right? You are not so. How do you apply that kind of thinking to reality itself? This, yes, like this is so intense and overwhelming. But then again, is it really? you know, like what am I really afraid of? You know, like what am I really anxious about? Right? And more times than not, it's about death, right? It's about maintaining our bodies that we misunderstand as being who we are. You know, our bodies are not who we are; they're just an expression of a greater experience. Right? We're not people. We're not beings. We're experiences. Awareness is an experience. Consciousness is an experience. Right? So even just right now as we get into our practice, um, just beginning to reflect on some of what I've shared. This illusion, this dreamlike quality, right, of the phenomenal world. You know, and we talk about all kinds of analogies and symbolisms and everything. But for me, it's like, yeah, like this world is just an experience, and I have the capacity to hold space for that experience. And and of course the other question is, of course, is who's this I, or what is this I that's holding anything? What is this I that's experiencing anything to begin with? I mean, in a real way, right? We're trying to break loose from this this fixation, this intense neurotic fixation to the sense of self, to the sense of I, right? And once you begin to decenter I, the sense of I, a little bit, then the world, you begin to experience much more of how the world, on all phenomena, is just this experience, right? It's like something that's arising, something that's like coming and going, right? But it's something that just is very lucid, is very transparent. It's almost as if everything is just like smoke and lights, and you're beginning to actually to see through the smoke and the lights, and you're like, oh, okay, this is what this is, right? But then again, I think we also have to get clear about if we actually want to get free, right? And again, a lot of us haven't made that decision yet. And that's the hardest decision to make, I think, on this path is saying, you know what, I actually want to get free. Because when you get serious about freedom, that's when shit happens. That's when some real shit starts to happen, right? And you will lose so much when you decide to get free, right? And that's why so much of this work is about heartbreak. Like your heart will break because you will start moving through these intense fixations and longings and desires. Just a little bit longer. I mean, just offering space, just for us to reflect, to think about this before we get deeper. It's about freedom, right? Freedom. And what's freedom even mean if you're not already thinking about it? But try to get some attention to that, to this experience of freedom. What does that even mean for you, right? And this work around freedom, you know, like it will take you to the darkest places, right? There's no getting free without going through hell. Right. I think, also rightfully so, again, just to reiterate that, if this doesn't scare you, you're not actually doing it right. Like, this isn't, again, this isn't supposed to be easy. this is this choice isn't easy. It's just some of you are pointing out the trauma, right? Like the ways in which we lose a sense of self puts us into danger. Absolutely. This again goes back to the Heart Sutra, right? You have to be able to choose yourself and to protect yourself, and at the same time, know that you actually do not exist. This I is actually just something that I'm creating to make all of this make sense. Like everything, there's this really sophisticated mechanism that's happening that we are on different levels of consciousness working really hard to make everything make sense when it doesn't actually make sense. To be a boundless, expansive consciousness and to trick yourself into believing that you're just this body. I mean, that takes a lot of maneuvering to buy into that. But we've gotten really good at it. You're boundless, you're awakened, you are beyond suffering, but somehow we are suffering. Why does that make sense? And of course, this is the ground that we're preparing to invite Medicine Buddha to emerge from, right? Like you have to loosen the soil to start planting and seeding it, right? So you're breaking up the hard dirt, the hard soil, and you're beginning to plant these seeds around awakening and liberation, which is just a counter narrative to the ones that we have developed a deep loyalty to. We're loyal to the narrative that everything's real and solid and that this is my body and this is who I am. So we're being subversive and quite frankly entering into a kind of fugitivity here when you're actually beginning to change the narrative and say, you know what, I'm already free. In the same way Harriet did. You know, the same way Harriet said, you know what? No one has a right to enslave me. What is this? Like, no one has the right to grant me freedom. I'm already free. And to prove it, I'm just going to walk away. Well, she kind of ran, but like she walked, away. But some of you struggle to have that courage. You don't know how to walk away from the suffering because you think that's who you are. You self-identified with the phenomenon of suffering. And love, self-love, is really about bringing the the splintered self back together into wholeness. And then when it comes back together, then you can let go of it. You know, until you actually start loving and accepting and holding yourself, right? You won't be able to actually understand that the sense of self is an illusion. All you'll see are fragments and pieces of that illusion, which gets really exhausting. It's better to bring everything back together through love instead of trying to liberate pieces at a time. So self-love says, this is who I am. And a deeper love says, and I am just an experience. But what happens when you start telling yourself, I am medicine Buddha? I am a Buddha, I am awakened. Because that's actually the truth. I mean, it's a relative truth, right? Outside of this, Buddhas don't exist. There's no such thing as Buddhas and Buddhisms, and, there's just the ways that we're identifying our original states, right? But you go to another world system, they don't really have Buddhas. They have something similar, I think. You know, I'm not going to get into how I know that, but anyway, just to say that um, once you return back to your original state, you don't need these tools of Buddhism anymore. Like Buddhism gets us somewhere, and once it gets you somewhere, you don't need it anymore. Once I cook my food, I don't need the fire anymore, right? Once I eat the food, I don't need silverware and forks and everything anymore. Once I drink the water, I don't need the cup anymore. Like, so I say all that to say that even Buddhism has to be abandoned at the threshold of awakening. But until then, this is what we're working with, right? So let's go deeper. But before we go deeper, I have to get my drum. So I'm just gonna, you keep having your reflection. I'll be back in a second. My drum rolled over to the other side of the room. It apparently doesn't want to practice today, but I have another plan. Okay, now we're back. All right. So let's continue. Let's get a little deeper. And by the way, just a reminder, please go ahead. Um, and if you want to post a prayer into the prayer doc, please go ahead and do that as we begin as well. Only if you want to. Right? So I really encourage you and invite you to begin with this aspiration, right? The aspiration of getting free, right? You may not believe it, you may not buy into it, but humor me. You know, we in many ways we have to fake it till we make it. Right? Right? So beginning with really telling yourself, I'm only practicing to get free. I'm practicing to help others get free. To get free from suffering, the causes and conditions of suffering, to remember my innate Buddha nature, which is my innate consciousness, mind, free from suffering, abiding within limitless space. And I think sometimes when some of us think about space, we think about outer space. And that's also not what we're talking about either. Just to put that out there. But these experiences of space and emptiness are experiences that we actually can't articulate either. These are things that we feel, or these are things that we feel like we're being pointed towards something, or aligned, or tuned into something that transcends the capacity to articulate and to describe. And actually, I want you to imagine that this aspiration to get free, right? To get free, to get others free, which is also bodhicitta, right? Which is the awakened um, kind of mind, this kind of deeply altruistic motivation, to be of benefit. But this aspiration to get free, to help others get free, imagine that it's a seed, like a bodhi seed, or just any seed. And imagine that the seed is being planted into your heart center. Right? So it's like the seed can materialize outside of you, and the seed is just planted right into your heart center. The seed, this aspiration to get free. And then we imagine that this seed begins to take root and sprout energetically in the heart center. And that this energy, this experience of freedom is just beginning to awaken and grow throughout your own body and also throughout your mind. So we're going to transition now into our opening mantra, which is Om Lasange Kino Soha, and they'll be in the chat right there. Om Lasange Kino Soha. And to begin with, we're going to start by chanting Om, and we're just going to do it 3 times, right? So we'll start with chanting Om, then going into the mantra 3 times, and then ending with chanting the Om, right? And so we'll begin and taking a deep breath. Sange Kino Soa Om La Sange Kino Soa And so we've planted this seed of liberation within the heart center. And it's growing, so this energetic experience of something blossoming, awakening in the body begins to happen. But I also invite you to imagine that also from that same seed that's now growing and sprouting, that medicine Buddha actually begins to emanate just slowly right within the heart center. And you can imagine medicine Buddha in the traditional way, the traditional iconography of medicine Buddha that you can see on the prayer dot. But just imagining, feeling medicine Buddha awaken just within the heart center for now. And now slowly, you begin to imagine that medicine Buddha begins to get larger, bit by bit, until slowly we imagine that medicine Buddha is filling up our whole bodies. That slowly we're beginning to lose the separation between us and medicine Buddha. right? So feeling this energetic awakening of Medicine Buddha. And now, I invite you to imagine that Medicine Buddha actually begins to extend beyond your body. And that we begin to imagine that we're just kind of sitting within this energetic body of Medicine Buddha. And Medicine Buddha doesn't have to get so expansive beyond the body, but just expansive enough so that we can imagine that we're like sitting in and being held within this energetic body of Medicine Buddha, which I would even call the Sambhogakaya body, which is just another way of saying energy body, like the pure energy form of an awakened being. And we can begin to imagine here that our bodies, our physical bodies, just slightly loses this kind of material edginess. Or another way of putting it, we start getting translucent. In the same way, Medicine Buddha that's holding us is translucent. And slowly, our physical bodies are translucent. The physical bodies now begin to dissolve into the translucent body of Medicine Buddha. And in this moment, we become Medicine Buddha as our mind mingles and fills up this form. And we're reminded that we've always been the expressions of Medicine Buddha and expressions of all the Buddhas, actually. So what does it feel like to think, I am Medicine Buddha? And I am just an experience of energy and space. And so we slowly, in this form, begin to shift to just the first round of our mantra. And we're just going to be chanting. I won't be adding the drum on this go. But we just begin to chant it. The mantra appears there. Teyata Om Begenze Begenze Maha Ben. Teyata Om Begenze Begenze Maha Begenze. Raza Sumungate Soha. And allowing the mantra, you can listen to it or chant it along with me, but and in any case, allowing the mantra to rise from this expression of space and emptiness and energy and to allow the mantra to return. And just noticing, don't think too much about this. Just allowing this experience to hold you is really the key here. And we begin. O te adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumunga te soa. Te adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumunga te soa. Te anda te soa. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razuzuga te soa. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razuzuga te soa. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razuzuga te soa. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razuzuga te soa. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razuzuga te soa. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razuzuga te soa. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razuzuga te soa. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razuzuga te soa. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razuzuga te soa. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razuzuga te soa. And so we turn our attention to our prayers, and as we do so, we call into our space and our practice all the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and all the beings that can hold these prayers, all the beings of light, all the beings dedicated to our own liberation. We call even our benevolent ancestors into this space as well to hear and to hold these prayers that we offer on behalf of ourselves, that we offer on behalf of our beloveds, that we offer on behalf of the world. And we pray that these prayers are heard, and we pray that you act on our behalf to bring about the fruition of these prayers. We're offering prayers for Rachel as she heals her body from a deep burn. Offering prayers for C that she reclaim her ability to deeply rest and to find restoration. Offering prayers for R as she continues to heal from the car accident. We're offering prayers for the Crisco family as they bury their father and cousin tomorrow. Offering prayers for myself as I recover from overcommitment and overextension. Offering prayers for my sister as she continues to rebuild her body with cancer post-transplant. Offering prayers for my hometown in dealing with youth violence. Offering prayers for all those in leadership positions that they return to their own hearts again and again for guidance. Offering prayers for Eli as they recover from respiratory infection. And prayers for Clem and their mental health. Offering prayers for Kian with Crohn's disease. Offering prayers for Zule as they navigate thyroid cancer. Offering prayers for those who suffer and those who seek to end the suffering of others. Offering prayers for Jay that they may have a safe, smooth, and quick exit from an abusive relationship, and may they remember their worth, value, and beauty. Offering prayers for Grace that she may be comforted and held in her new start down south. Offering prayers for those that are struggling with addiction and suicidal ideation, may they remember they are loved and held. Offering prayers for my godmother R, who passed into the bardo. Her home was the site of molestation for myself and my sisters, as her husband and son were abusers. And therefore, prayers from me as I am dealing with anger and guilt for anger, and fear that such a thing could even go unseen for so long. Offering prayers for all the children who are being mistreated in broad daylight with willfully blind adults in their midst. Prayers for my husband to find work that suits him. Offering prayers for Nina and Rishi, for Subhash and Sanjeev, Newly and the Bardo, for all beings to benefit from the blessings of my life. For all beings in all realms to be free, for me to trust what I know, keep doing the work with self-kindness, and keep going no matter what. Ashe. Prayers that I grow deep roots in my new place of claiming direct access to the benevolent and loving nature of all phenomenal reality. Prayers for my daughter that she have all she needs in life to have and maintain loving, authentic relationships with her own beloveds, and the same for Elle. Prayers for Jenny as she navigates her inner turmoil and learns the lessons of self-love, acceptance, and forgiveness. Prayers for Francesca, who is facing job peril. May she know abundance. May she know stability and support from her loved ones. Prayers for Tom as he faces C-suite, greed, and toxic work environments. May he find new ways to value himself apart from his livelihood. May he choose to be kind and care for himself in the face of hostility. Offering prayers for Stefania as she navigates ongoing chemotherapy treatments. May she know compassion and heal, both physically and emotionally, for all the beloveds of those here and for all of our benefactor circle and homecomings. I continue to offer prayers for my uncle Donnell as he struggles to recover from a very serious accident. I continue to offer prayers for Spring as she continues to find permanent housing as well. I continue to offer prayers for Yasmin as she continues healing through her cancer journey. I continue to offer prayers for all beings right now, that all systems of violence and harm are completely abolished and disrupted. May we all remember our own innate awakened state. May all beings have all they need to be well, safe, happy, and resourced. And may we all one day begin to experience the liberated future that so many of us are working towards and dreaming about. May we get free as quickly as possible. So we release the energy of these prayers into the experience of those we've invited to hold these prayers. And in releasing them, we also release as much as we can the anxiety and the fear and the doubt. We ask all those beings here to hold us and to hear our prayers to work quickly and swiftly to bring about what we most deeply desire. Returning our attention back to the mantra. And again, just continuing, returning back to wherever you were. Just letting the mantra take care of you. O te Adam begenze ma begenze rasu sumungate soa te Adam begenze ma begenze rasu sumungate soa te Adam begenze ma 대야다움 대근제 대근제 마대근제 라스수무가테소아 대안다움 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 대근제 대근제 마대근제 라스수무가테소아 대한다운 백은세 백은세 마백은세라고 수무가 뜻도와 대한다운 백은세 백은세 마백은세라서 수무가 뜻도와 대한다운 백은세 백은세 마백은세 라서 수문갓대소아 대한다운 백은세 백은세 마백은세 라서 수문갓대소아 대하다운 백은세 백은세 마백은세 라수수무간대소아 대하다운 백은세 백은세 마백은세 라수수무간대소아 대한다운 백은세 백은세 마백은세 라서 수문갓대소아 대한다운 백은세 백은세 마백은세 라서 수문갓대소아 and just releasing as we prepare to transition out of practice, just releasing any last prayers, hopes, aspirations, just into this form as medicine Buddha, into emptiness itself. Just release, just let go of. Leave everything here within the expression of medicine Buddha. And slowly we begin to imagine ourselves as medicine Buddha beginning to dissolve into white light. And how that white light dissolves into emptiness itself. And the only thing that remains is our own awareness, which is expressions of our consciousness and minds. And we just abide, simple, direct, uncomplicated. Letting all phenomena be held within our boundless ocean-like awareness. And so slowly, we feel our physical bodies begin to re-arise, particularly connecting to the seat and the weight of our bodies. It's giving our bodies time and our minds time to just kind of reset, resettle, and ground again in this timeline, in this moment. If you're unsure, go ahead and practice saying your name and the date, as one does. Sure, you've taken a journey. And you may not get that reference, but if you know, you know. So you are definitely sitting in a Zoom room on October 2nd. As to your name, you know, just read the screen. Okay, yeah, movement. Go ahead and move. Let me see. Let's go into Shantadeva's prayer, and then we'll have a couple minutes for questions at the end, okay? So we're going to recite this 3 times together. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach unto the ends of space. And finally, may I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I also support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach unto the ends of space. Okay. All right. Thank you all so much for your practice. And let's in just in 5 minutes or so, if there are any questions, you can put those in the chat box, or you can just come on and ask it directly.
Hey, Lama Rod.
Hey, Rachel.
I want to read a paragraph, and then I just want to read the paragraph. This is from a book called 7 Brief Lessons on Physics that an 88-year-old black minister gave to me last week. Heisenberg imagined that electrons do not always exist. They only exist when someone or something watches them, or better, when they're interacting with something else. They materialize in a place when colliding with something else. The quantum leaps from one orbit to another, the only means they have of being real. An electron is a set of jumps from one interaction to another when nothing disturbs it. It is not in any precise place. It is not in a place at all. And then he's saying, what does this all mean? does it mean that we must accept the idea that reality is only interaction? Okay, so I want to say that I do not pretend to understand any of that, except I have this vague sense that it's all true. And it really just reminds me of what you're talking about when you talk about emptiness. So I just wanted to, yeah, it's 7 brief lessons on physics.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I owe you a return to a message. You
you
know,
did.
yeah, I do.
I'm
But
waiting.
but you, as I say all the time, some of you have fucked with me enough to know. But I'm on a different timeline most of the
Fine.
time.
And you know what I want to say is I found some notes from the last time we talked, and I thought, huh, maybe I should just reread these several times. But I still want to talk to you, so I'm not giving up. I'm gonna keep hoping. Thank
Yes.
you.
We have small groups happening again this month. I know I've been away. So small groups, everything is coming back online. Okay. Okay. So here's something. Eli was saying in the chat um, about Harriet Tubman, about your um, she was it was really actually funny. I started connecting to her in the chat, and while we were chanting, and she was downloading some responses to that practice. um, you're talking about, when you're working with Harriet Tubman, you're talking about, um, eh, what did she say? She was like, of course I scare the shit out of people. Like, look at what I did, you know? Like, if you're not interested in getting free, like, don't come knocking on my door, right? And of course, if you read Spring's book, um, the spirit of Harriet Tubman, she mostly talks about. I do too, because I wrote the foreword, but just about like what it means to start connecting to these kinds of bodhisattvas. Too, that like this isn't like a game. It's like you don't say Candyman 3 times into a mirror if you don't want trouble. You know, I don't know if that works for Candyman, but like, what I'm saying. It's like, if you get involved with her, then it's a relentlessness. It's like she was serious that if you fuck with her, she's gonna shoot you if you turn around. So, get clear. When she came to me in quarantine and she was like, "Are you about this or not?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, of course, right." Mostly because I was about like this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm trying to get people free, right? So that wasn't an issue for me. But like if there's doubts, like it's gonna hurt. So just be careful. She's nothing but compassion, nothing but love. But she understands what's at stake. You know. Any is there another question, Eli? There you go. Uh-oh, you disappeared.
Sorry, my computer froze exactly when I tried to unmute.
Well, like that's not random.
Yeah, slowed me down. I wanted to say, yeah, about Harriet. I was kind of like sitting with Harriet, and this image of my auntie from when I was younger came back up, who I used to hang out a lot with, and I used to take care of all my cousins, got so many cousins, and I was the youngest of the older batch, so I took care of all the young ones, but also like kind of got beat up on by all the big ones, and it put me in a precarious spot vis-a-vis tattletaling, I didn't like to, no, everybody was like, no snitches around here, we're all keeping it, kids' business is kids' business, adults have their business. And every now and then I'd come into my auntie's room and she'd look at me and she'd go, don't you tell me nothing you don't want me to know. As in, if you tell on somebody, I'm gonna get them in trouble and there will be repercussions in your social sphere. So you better be clear about what you want to get from me when you walk into this room. Like, if you want me to get people in trouble, I've got a temper and everybody's about to have a bad day. So make it be worth it. Basically, like, be clear about what you want. And I feel like that's the same energy. Like, she was like, I'm down to protect you. I'm down to do whatever needs to be done, but I'm just not gonna, bullshit around any of this like you guys. I'm gonna get straight to it and we're all gonna get, to the heart of the matter. So you better come in this room with a plan if you're coming in this room. And I think that's the same energy that I'm trying to be brave enough to, answer the call for. Thank you for your.
Just say yes. I mean, it's a lot easier. Just say yes. Don't fight. Don't fight it. you know? But it's real. It's really like it's like still like she's like still. It's like she's like I am clear about this, right? And you're gonna get hurt if you're not. Not that she's gonna hurt you, but you're gonna experience a lot of suffering because you're gonna feel like you're being torn because you're not. You haven't made that full decision to get free. One half of you is still on the plantation. The other half is trying to run, right? It's all or nothing. And that's really the energy of liberation is all or nothing. It's not like, oh, I'm just gonna put a little effort in and I'm just gonna see if that works out. And then I'll bring everything to the table. No, it's like everything has to be put on the table. Like that's what we're dealing with. And that's the only way you're gonna get anything really important out of this. You yep. Not everyone's gonna come with, right? Not everyone's ready to get free, right? But you'll get that in New Saints. Don't worry. You'll get plenty of support in New Saints. I continue the conversation we started in Harriet Tubman, the spirit of Harriet Tubman. But yeah, I just noticed some comments, Carla. Yeah, there's a lot of energy moving through the practice. My medicine has changed, so you're feeling that. So yeah, so that's what's happening. I'm evolving and the practice is evolving and we're getting deeper. It's a lot of energy, but you can hold it, right? Um, yeah, I just think this is like really wonderful that we have this opportunity to be together, to practice together in the way that we're doing. Um, there's so many other places you could be, but you're choosing to be here, right? I'm not saying that like I'm like special or that like I'm all of that, but I have something valuable to give, right? And I'm grateful for those who show up to get it. It's just in the same way with Harriet Tubman, with Mother Harriet. It's like she has a lot to give, but who's paying attention, you know? And I think even more specifically about my teacher, my root teacher, Norla Rinpoche. When I was living in a monastery, I would take him out into the town, which is like kind of Poughkeepsie, New York. And we would go to the grocery store. We would go to McDonald's. Like he wasn't supposed to go to McDonald's, but we would go to like museums, and he would. I would just be minding my own business at the monastery. He would point to me and say, "Okay, take me to the store." And we would go to the store, and this monk, right, this Tibetan monk walking around the grocery store, people aren't necessarily paying attention, right? They're just like, whatever. It's a lot of monasteries in that area, so it's like, it's not uncommon to see monastics and different, and both Buddhist and Catholic monastics around. Um, but I would stand there sometimes in the grocery store and just look at him and look around, and I would be like, wow, like this guy can get you free, but like no one's even paying attention, right? Um, so there is, oh, let me answer this question. Backing out of toxic situation. How do you stay connected to the guides and not get caught up in judging the results? So backing out of toxic situations, how do you stay connected to the guides and not get caught up in judging the results? Well, sometimes it's about letting go of your expectations of what's going to happen, and too, which has been a big lesson for me. Sometimes I'm like, this is what I want to happen, and I get something completely different, and I'm like, well, that's not what I wanted. And then for me, it's been a challenge to really to reflect on and to reflect on, okay, what exactly happened, what did I get, and maybe perhaps this is what I was actually needing. you know because if we're deeply connected to the guides, to our homecoming benefactors and whatever and so forth, there's a level of trust like that we're trying to awaken, that like if we're actually really surrendering to them, that we're going to get what we need, not what we want. I want millions of dollars. That's what I want, but instead I get other resources that I need, like food and clothing, and money to pay rent. It's not $1 million, but I have what I need, right? So letting go of those kind of expectations, I think, is really important. Um, yeah, but it's all about, does this feel like liberatory? Does this feel spacious? Does this feel fluid? Right? Because once you leave really intense situations, there's also the labor of figuring out who you are outside of that situation as well. You know, and that can feel really painful too. That's so much for those of you who identify as survivors. That's part of the healing. It's like, who am I, right? Because you're reconstructing a sense of who you are outside of suffering, right? Who am I now? You know, and how easy it is for us to keep going back to these situations that feel familiar. This is what suffering is really like for us, because it's familiar. This is what we know. We've self-identified. So, like, when we start making choices to disrupt suffering, it's going to feel really unnatural, counterintuitive. It's heartbreaking. Again, you go straight to the heartbreak, right? You say, oh, I'm going to make a different choice, and all of a sudden your heart breaks. It's because you're mourning. That mourning is helping you to transition into this new understanding of who you are, right? To new ways of self-identifying. And this last question, recently had an experience of my intuition turning out to be totally wrong. Been there, done that. A vision I had didn't come true. Okay. Never happened to me before that a vision hasn't proven true. What do I do with that? Is my tuition broken? Ooh, that's a really good question. Um, that's interesting. I can't be for sure. Um, I don't know. I don't. I can't really get into that for some reason. I don't know why that would happen. Especially if all the conditions and everything was there that usually accompanies a kind of vision that you have and it didn't come true. I can't really pinpoint it right now, but bring the question again back next week and see if I'm in a different place and see if we can get into it. Okay, I think that's it. We've gone a little bit past time, but that's common. So again, I hope to see you Saturday. At least you'll have the recording that you can get. Please pre-order the book. That'll be really wonderful. It'll be helpful as well. And I'll see you. We have Free Radicals on Thursday. So I hope to see you in Free Radicals as well. And you can find that on our, particularly on my website, you will find that as well. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you hopefully later this week. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your practice.